CarPlay Ultra supporters, California regulates chatbots, and Amazon disarms James Bond. This is MacVoices. The MacVoices Dispatch is our weekly newsletter about all things MacVoices, from the week shows to Chuck's other appearances to the week's best MacVoices magazine articles. The Dispatch keeps you up to date. Sign up now at macvoices.com/newsletter. We're starting to run down to the end here, guys, which is good. This was another follow-up from some of our recent conversations, that it's an updated list of the brands that plan to offer Apple's car support for Apple's CarPlay Ultra. Some we knew, some we didn't. They also list the companies that said they would not. And as we did say, Aston Martin is the only one that currently offers it. The ones that say they will offer it are Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, and Porsche. And let's see, where was the undecided list? The undecided list is pretty long. Acura, Audi, Ford, Honda, Infiniti, Jaguar, Land Rover, Lincoln, Mercedes-Benz, Nissan, Polestar, Porsche, Renault, and Volvo. So if you are thinking about buying a car, maybe you want to ask the question. Brian?
I was going to say that list at the bottom of the article, the unclear, there's probably about a dozen names on that. It seems like, when you're looking at a graph, like a pie chart, and you see one category called other, and it's got the other, it's like you zoom in and like, what are all the others? And there's a ton of them. It's almost like each of them probably have their own stories on, how they're sitting on the sidelines deciding whether or not to enable this feature in their cars. To me, it's just amazing how many are sitting there almost, I guess, on the sidelines to kind of see. And looking at that list, my guess would be that when Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis, kind of the same parent company, kind of decide on, once that gets off the ground and, they obviously sell a lot of cars, I think that's when some of those ones on the sidelines will make that decision.
You bring up a really interesting point. I hadn't thought about it in the pie chart sense, because you're right. There are still a lot of the ones that have been making the most noise. And again, maybe it's just clickbait, are the ones that have said, no, we're not going to. Because we had a big Rivian debate last week, or discussion, I should say, last week. So is it just a matter of they haven't decided, or, yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by that aspect of it, that the vast majority haven't taken a position one way or the other. Jim,
Well,
do you have a Genesis?
I do, but I assume it's not going to apply to my existing car. This
Right.
will be for future cars that come out. But I will say that my car has really nice CarPlay integration. There's a couple of things that it has that I haven't seen in most CarPlay cars. One is it has a jog wheel, which it uses in its interface, the native car interface, but it also works in CarPlay really well. So I assume that must be something that's an option in CarPlay, but it's just, most cars don't have it. And it's actually really nice because, especially my screen is 14 inches wide. So the right-hand side of it, it's like you kind of have to lean over, to reach it, which you can do. And so, it's certainly got the full touch interface and it works really well. But you can also use the jog wheel, and it kind of works like Apple TV, where there's focus, the Apple TV control, like you can only go to places where there's things that are active, right? You know how that works? So that's how this jog wheel works. So you can just turn the wheel and it goes around the screen to things, that are active. So, for example, if I want to pause, the podcast or music I'm listening to, I just turn the jog wheel until it's on the pause and then click it. And I can leave it there. So then now that jog wheel becomes a pause button, or I could leave it on the skip forward or skip back. So that's really nice. It's something that I didn't even before I bought the car, I didn't even really know and didn't even pay attention to for the first, I'm not sure, months, 2 or 3, 4 months. And then gradually was like, hey, this is really cool. The other thing is that, and this was added, it wasn't in the car originally, but it was added in an over-the-air update about 6 months after I got the car, is now it supports not only the center screen, but for maps, the screen in front of the steering wheel is supported. So I know it works with Apple Maps. That's the only thing I've tried it with, but I'm in an online forum. I think it now works with Google Maps and Waze also, and a better route planner. And that is just really awesome because, it just always, if you're doing a route, it just always shows you, what the next, half mile or whatever of your route is, and here's your next turn. It's always right there in front of you in the steering wheel, no matter what's going on the main infotainment screen. So you could have music display there. You could have the overall. Well, a lot of times what I do is I'll have the overall view of my trip. Like here's the map of the whole trip on the main screen. And then in front of the steering wheel, it just has, here's your next turn. So that's really, really nice. And then the car has a heads up display, and Apple Maps will show you the next turn, like, oh, your next exit is in, 2 miles, and also what lane to get into. And that shows up in the heads up display. So overall, the point is that they've pretty tightly already integrated CarPlay beyond what a lot of other manufacturers are. So it doesn't really surprise me. Clearly somebody there has already been working with Apple pretty closely. So it doesn't surprise me. And I wonder, like Brian's saying, if, Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, it's all basically one company. And they do sell a lot of cars. I mean, I think it's the third largest car company. I think it's Toyota, VW, and then Hyundai Motor Group is the third. So that's a lot of cars in the world. So if this proves to be, something that's a differentiator, that people are going out and buying Hyundai Motor Group cars because of this, then, other manufacturers may be like, okay, on the other hand, if it flops, which I don't think it will, I think it'll be a success, but, based on my own experience with my existing car and the existing CarPlay. But if it flops, then nobody else will do it. But other than like GM is obviously they're already like saying we're not going to do CarPlay because we want the subscription revenue and we want to sell your information and whatnot. But other than that, I assume these other companies are just, they're just on the fence. They're just waiting. I mean, I wouldn't expect to see an announcement unless they make a definitive, we're not going to do it, or, they're in the process of doing it. Why would they pre-announce it? It's like, don't buy our existing cars because we're going to do this down the road. Dumb.
Brian?
Yeah, I was just looking even more at that list, and with Porsche also being on the will offer CarPlay Ultra list, it's funny how they will offer it. Commonly owned by Volkswagen, Audi is saying they will not offer it, and then Volkswagen itself being in the unclear. So that's kind of interesting in itself too. But I don't know how close those two, well, even with a common owner, I don't know how close that they operate. I think Hyundai and Kia, I think, are tighter. I get that impression at least.
Hyundai and Genesis are literally the same company. In fact, my car, if I open the door, the builder's plate says Hyundai, and the U.S. headquarters are in the same building. Kia is somewhat like I think Hyundai owns a significant stake, maybe even a majority stake in Kia, but it is not the same entity. And for example, in the United States, they have their own headquarters. It's in a different building. It's only like 6 or 7 miles down the road. But my understanding is that Hyundai USA and Kia USA are like, they hate each other. but I think back in the homeland, clearly the cars have tons of, like the electric cars have the same batteries, they have the same motors, they have the same infotainment screens. If you look at the screen in my car, in a Hyundai Ioniq 5, in a Kia EV6, they're identical. So there's clearly a huge amount of on the other hand, Honda is selling Prologues that are built on a GM, it's a GM Ultimate. It's the exact same car as an Equinox, basically. So that's not unheard of, even when the companies aren't the same.
Right.
I just think
I like Marty's, yeah. He's not going to buy a Porsche because it doesn't have CarPlay Ultra. I'm sure that's it, Marty.
If they announced CarPlay tomorrow in a Porsche, would you buy it, Marty?
No.
Okay.
That's not the reason. I'm not buying a Porsche.
I didn't read your note closely enough. I missed the not. I thought you said it was the reason.
Oh. Yeah, but if they did Vision Pro integration, then I bet you'd be in the market.
No, I'd just be asking Webb for a ride.
Last one of the evening, and we usually try to wrap up with something humorous, and you can make this humorous if you want, but some of the reasons that it happened are not so humorous. But California has just passed the first. Let me try that again. California became the first state to regulate AI companion chatbots. And at least some of that was in response to a couple teen deaths from chatbots that allegedly contributed to their deaths. And that's a whole nother discussion that we could spend hours on. But I guess my takeaway on this one is that, first of all, that's got to be a good thing. If you have users that are not mature enough to recognize some of these things, or mature in any sense, that that it's not a good thing to be taking advice from these things on matters of potential life and death. But I also wonder, okay, California did it, but they can enforce it in the state of California for Californians. And in theory, I guess if the guardrails go into place everywhere, then it's a benefit to everyone. But I always get just a little nervous about states trying to put regulations or protections or requirements on companies when they really the state identification, the state line really has little or no meaning. So, because we talked about this, and again, I can never remember. Was it South Dakota? Someone tried to outlaw TikTok, which was, of course, science fiction. What good did that do? Montana. Yeah, I always do that. Sorry, South Dakota. Sorry, Montana. A few weeks ago, we saw Mississippi, Blue Sky shut down in Mississippi because it couldn't deal with their age verification requirements. And okay, so that's fine, but then what happens if people use VPNs inside the state or outside the state? So are the laws worth anything?
They're window dressing. What kids cannot figure out how to use a VPN. I, as an adult, I get a little tired of net nannying me with different things that I want to do, just for whatever reason I want to do them. Sora, which is an app where you can create videos with it and, put your likeness in and it'll generate a video. And I was trying to do a storyline where in the end, I'm so frustrated my head explodes. And Sora said, "Oh, we can't do that because we don't want to portray any violent images." It's my head that's exploding. I'm not asking it to explode Brian's head. So I'm getting a little fed up with the net nannying, and what people are doing is they're basically getting VPNs and they're signing on from states that don't have that kind of reduction. Now, the whole story tragic about these kids that the parents are trying to say as a result of their engagement with chatbots, to what extent that perpetrated the issue with them, we will never know. But it says a lot in terms of dealing with mental health instead of trying to find if the person has to turn to a chatbot to deal with mental health, there are bigger social problems that we have to address.
Marty, thank you for being so eloquent on that, because that's exactly the way I feel about it. Usually my phrase is personal responsibility, and the kids need to take it for themselves, but also the parents need to take it on behalf of the kids. And so that's a little bit different spin, but I like yours a lot more.
Yeah, the conversation in our field is now, if clients are going to use these things, what you should do is get on board and ask those kinds of questions when you're working with clients, to find out if they're using these, and then ask them what kind of advice they're getting, how does it work for them, so you become helpful in monitoring their use of it. But the origins of these kids who took their own life didn't just emerge because a chatbot said do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, please, folks, don't send emails, because, we're sensitive to the fact that we're talking about kids who lost their lives and parents who lost their kids. At the same time, you have to ask some of these questions. You can't just knee jerk and say, "Oh, this is tragic, and we've got to just lock everything down." And I just lied to everybody, because Marty's comments reminded me of an article I saw that I just didn't bother to save. And I'm throwing those into the chat room right now, where Amazon, in the name sort of Marty, of what you said, tried to, or did, edit the guns out of some of the legacy James Bond art and promotional. And if you go and load that link and look at this pathetic image, the pathetic job they did. I mean, these are classic images of the actors who played James Bond. Yes, they were holding a gun, right? But it's James Bond. Come on. He's not going to hold a carrot. I mean, so this is where I feel like some of it has just gone way too far. The political correctness thing has gone way too far, and this does make me worry about the future of the James Bond franchise now that Amazon owns it. So,
Amazon
the
owns
comments
that?
on this article
I missed that.
Right.
Oh yeah, they own the whole Bond franchise.
But MGM.
I will, rebut. Amazon bought it. They're free to do whatever they want with it. This is not a government censorship issue. Nobody's telling them what to do. And if people don't like it, they won't spend their money on James Bond material.
You're not wrong, Jim, about any of that. But I still, this rewriting of history, this constant rewriting of history, because of today's norms.
It's
really
not
bothers
history.
me.
It's Jeff Bezos' property.
Okay, but you're not wrong about that either. You're not wrong about either. But the sentiment still remains the same. I mean, pretty soon, I live about half an hour from the battlefields at Gettysburg. So what are we going to do? We're going to take all the cannons out of the pictures of Gettysburg battles, the
I
drawings.
suggest we do not sell Gettysburg to Jeff Bezos.
Okay, that would be a show title if I did show titles right there.
And I still can't explode my own head.
Yes. And Barry makes a really good point. Barry, I've not seen this said anywhere, and I didn't even think about it. But they didn't take the gun out of the 007 logo.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I hadn't.
Because logos kill people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yet.
Apple did the same thing. They took the gun emoji away and they replaced it with the water gun. So
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
Norbert, you know what? I know that, and I can almost go with that because of the kid thing. You know, is it really a great idea to have kids, being able to put gun emojis in? Even though if they put the water gun in, everybody's going to know what it is. But oh yes, send your emails through the contact on the MacVoices website, and now I will be roundly chastised. Guys, that's everything I had for tonight. Thank you all for being here and contributing and sharing your wisdom and knowledge, or whatever it is else you shared. Let's go around the room and find out where they can find you when you're not here, and then we'll head to After Dark. And I want to flip it around because I want to give Norbert Frasa, top billing because he showed up tonight. It's always good to have you, Norbert. I know that the schedules don't always align, but where can folks catch up with you?
Well, if people are looking for my newest and latest, greatest tech podcast that's just about to come out, you're going to wait a little longer because I don't have one yet. But I am on the socials under Norbert Frasa. And if they want to reach out to me, Norbert Frasa at MacVoices.com is a good email address to use.
Thank you, Norbert. Good to see you as always.
My pleasure.
Marty Gensius, I'm sorry you won't be getting a Porsche, but I don't know. Maybe you can get a Porsche flag and put it behind you. Would that help?
I don't know. I just want to be like Webb.
We all want to be
more
like Webb.
Yeah.
I saw all of his cars, so.
Yeah. And I texted Dave when he said no, I couldn't convince him to get a Vision Pro. I said key one of his cars by accident, and Dave didn't do it. So
I tried.
Yeah,
you tried.
No.
David, you shouldn't admit those things. Marty, where can folks find you?
You can find me at Gensius, Jencius, on Blue Sky and also Mastodon Social. Mondays with Vision Profiles at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. And Tuesdays here with the group. Thursdays with Dave on In Touch with iOS. And occasionally, when I'm not at the hospital getting tests or taking people for tests, on the Mac Show on Friday mornings.
Great. Thanks so much, Marty. Let's see. Square Jim. No. What is it? Sponge Jim SquarePants? Or something like it. Works. Yeah, I don't know. Jim, thanks for being here. You and your unique background. Where can folks find you?
Well, if Norbert wants to find me, he can just get on the 210, hang a right, and go about 50 miles, and he'll find me.
Look for the pineapple.
Look for the pineapple. Exactly. It's right past the 2 freeway.
He lives next door to Patrick in Squidward.
So everybody else go to Mastodon. ProView Jim, ProVueJim at techhub.social.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. Brian Flanagan Arthurs, thank you for being here as always. What's the best way for folks to find you?
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. Best place to reach me is on my website, brian8944.com. You can also find me here most frequently on Tuesday evenings, and encourage you to check out On the Desk of Brian's podcast. The new episode is scheduled to drop on Thursday.
Excellent. Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Last but not least, David Ginsburg. Thank you so much, as always, Dave, for being here. You're sort of the rock up in the top left there. Where can folks find you?
You find me at In Touch with iOS, intouchwithios.com. YouTube channel is youtube.com/intouchwithios. I'm on the Vision Profiles podcast with Marty and Eric on Monday nights, here on Tuesday nights. Thursday nights we record In Touch with iOS at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network most Fridays, as well as on social media, Blue Sky. Mastodon is at DaveG65.
Great. Thank you, Dave. And I should mention, too, that when I say Dave's in the top left, it's always of my screen. I just looked over and saw our YouTube feed. He's in the top right. So, yes, I do know my left from my right most of the time. Folks, this is Mac Voices Live. We do this Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We'd love to have you join us. Barry in the chat room was extremely talkative tonight. Eric snuck in because he had another obligation, but he was able to make it for a little while. Wayne was there. Paul was there. So we'd love to have you join us and throw comments in the chat room at us. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.